Yes, good that you're listening, watching to the Free Roam podcast, where we every week discuss the latest gaming news that we think you will enjoy. My name is Jordan Joe Raptor. Of course, Luke Stevens is here as well, hosting it live on his own live channel. But you can also listen to the podcast every week, usually on Wednesday, on podcast services around the globe. But now we're recording on Friday because we had the PlayStation showcase and we thought it was more fun to kind of go over our thoughts, regarding that. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to discuss. And of course, we're both like Assassin's Creed nerds, so seeing Mirage was kind of a surprise, a fun one. So I'm really curious to. I haven't watched your videos on it, Luke, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on that.
There's a lot to go through. I am very excited for this because we were personally, I was ready for the show to be like, okay, that was pretty good. There were a couple bombs and like big bombshells that excited tons of people, but it was pretty good. Except I don't think the show was anything like anybody was expecting, and not necessarily in a good way. And so it's going to be fun to chat about. Just baffling decisions. This was a layup, and it feels like they just tripped at the 3-point line and then face planted. And
I have some theories.
Yeah. Oh, I want to hear them.
What this was. Yeah.
I want to hear it. Either way, I think there was a big discrepancy between what was being like communicated and sort of harbored and cultivated and what they were actually trying to do. Because it seems like this was just a sort of state of play update with one big announcement, or one big look at a big game that's coming. But people expected after a year and a half that a Sony showcase was going to be big news, big reveals, all that. And that was just not what they were trying to do, because they so clearly failed at all of that. But I don't know. What were your overall impressions and thoughts on the show?
Yeah, we're getting straight into it. Okay. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining, of course, in the chat. Great to see everyone. You want to give some shout outs?
Yeah, or? No, I'm always down for that. Dalton, I can see why people are upset, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think to be clear, it's like, we'll get into it, but it's like probably a 7-ish out of 10. Good, not great. You think it was worse?
6.
Oh,
yeah,
6.
No, a 5 actually. Damn, I'm lower. Wait, I don't think it's like yeah.
Interesting. In my view, I thought it was like, in a vacuum, it'd be viewed like a decent showcase, but because people were expecting a 10, it feels like a 5. Which maybe makes it a 5. I don't know. But we got Brandon.
I actually have been. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine. I was just gonna say we got Brandon, Pretty Eye, Michael, and Jacob, of course, is in here. FM, Chris, Michael, everybody. Thank you so much for being here live. We do have the chat on screen, so people after the show can see your lovely comments. And of course, if you want to come out live, we will try to respond to some comments as we go through the show. Super chats always get priority. And we're just excited to get into all of this with you guys. We might do a couple of polls during this show, by the way. So make sure to be watching the chat, because we might be asking you guys your opinions of the show and see where most people are. When I did a survey on stream, we had about 2,000 people in there responding to the survey. And over 80%, I believe it was 81%, voted the showcase as a 7 or below, and the majority of those people voted it 6 and below. So overall, it seems like there was a lot of dissatisfaction with this.
Yeah. Someone user is asking, what game is your background image? Fortnite, Cyberpunk. Like it's just like a random Discord background, because I'm still not in my regular record studio. So will be otherwise like not that exciting. So I will save that for later. Stay tuned. I will be back soon. But about the PlayStation Showcase, I like why I'm like lower is for a video that I'm working on right now, I actually went back and watched the previous showcase, or actually like looked at everything that was announced, and just scrolled through them. And it's kind of crazy that what we got during those previous shows. Let's see if I can like quickly grab it. So I think it's like a combination of having or expectations, of course, higher. Like the last showcase we had was in September 2021, and like we had State of Plays in between that. And for a State of Play, it can be a hit or miss. Like it's usually like Sony made some marketing deals, and they're like, okay, Bethesda's like, okay, you want Deathloop as an exclusive. What do you give us, right? Apart from a ton of money. Well, we will put it in every State of Play we do. So that's why we saw Deathloop a million times. And like that works. But for a PlayStation showcase, you expect that the bar is a bit higher, and that they will also reveal a lot of their own games. One of the big differences, for example, is usually during a PlayStation showcase, you see multiple people from PlayStation and multiple developers talk about their game. Like Haven, why like we got the Fair games sort of as their big reveal from Haven, from Jade Raymond, a lot of Ubisoft developers working on that. But it looked like I wasn't like convinced that this was going to be a popular multiplayer game. Looking at it, it looked a lot like Hyenas mixed with Payday. You got the finals. Like, it did not set the world on fire. Like, I think a lot of the trailers they showed for new projects were all CGI. So not that exciting at all. While for the previous PlayStation showcases, when we saw big games for the first time, we actually got a good look at them as well. And I felt that was kind of missing as well. So that's why it already fell off. I'm going to look at, if you want to chime in, I'm going to like look at some things that were previously announced. If I can like quickly.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think that there is sort of a worrying start to this shift in direction, because if you've listened to any of the like PlayStation, or rather Sony press briefings or like shareholder meetings and briefings over the last year or so, it's been clear that Sony is trying to find a way to effectively generate more revenue, which every company should do. But the way that they're trying to do that is by shifting into more live service titles, because until now, they just haven't made that a big priority. And the unfortunate reality in our industry is that while a game like God of War Ragnarok can print money, that takes years of work. And the reason that's such a huge title and so exceptional is because it's just that, exceptional. Most major games that have that much dev time and budget thrown into it don't generate that kind of revenue and ROI. Whereas a decently performing multiplayer game with cosmetics and stuff will make just as much, if not more, than God of War Ragnarok. I mean, just look at what some of these co-op games can generate, just millions upon millions upon millions in revenue. So PlayStation's leaning heavily into these new live service games. And as of right now, after that showcase, it doesn't feel like the PlayStation brand of like high quality in their single player space. It's like high quality third person narrative adventure games. That's like their thing. It doesn't feel like there's a clear thing that is the PlayStation first party live service title. It just feels like, hey, generic random extraction shooter, and then this one looks like Redfall mixed with Watch Dogs mixed with the finals. Boom. And they're just like tossing all this generic crap out that nobody frankly cares about. And I think that's judged by the reaction to some of this stuff. Like, what was the first game that they opened it with? What was the name?
That was the Fair Games one that you just mentioned.
Oh yeah,
DedSec. So that was the Haven one. Like, personally, as a huge like fan of some Ubisoft games, I was always paying attention to the studio, because like some of the like art director or like one of the like very veteran like art people that worked on like a lot of like the designs for many Assassin's Creed games. Like, he moved, for example, over. We got a ton of like creative director on Watch Dogs 2. Jade Raymond, of course, was at the forefront of Assassin's Creed. Like, I've been keeping an eye on that studio. I was like, I'm really curious what they're gonna do next. And this feels like a game that, and I'm sorry, like we haven't seen a lot, but right now I'm looking at it and I can already see the blog post 1 year later. Yeah, we're shutting down X game because we did not find the audience. Like, they're all competing with each other and they're all going after the same people. Well, I really hope that, because I would imagine that those people that worked at Ubisoft at one point are like, we're gonna do our own stuff, and we don't want the corporate overlords like kind of saying what we have to do. But this game feels like that. This game feels like Sony being like, hey, we need a live service. You are going to make it here, this and this.
Yeah.
Instead of them really making what they want. Like this, really looking at the trends. Oh, we're doing a heist thing, so we can maybe have a PvEVP experience, small teams. I don't know. We've seen many games like this already. What is unique about their game? And that was kind of said that in this trailer, we did not see that at all.
I totally agree. And I mean, the reaction, if you enable dislikes on YouTube, 2,500 likes, 10,000 dislikes.
Yeah. What the heck are they doing, man?
And the thing is, like, this is how they open the show. And then the way I saw it described by, forgive me, I can't remember who said this. It might have been like Colin Moriarty. I saw a clip of his podcast, but he was saying it as like the exec reveal, which is when you have the head honcho executive come out. Normally they come out just after or just before a major announcement. Like at Apple, they bring out Tim Cook right after the huge announcement or right before it to introduce it. And for this, they showed this off, and then they brought out Jim Ryan, and everybody's like, what? Was that supposed to be like a mic drop moment? Like, did you really think that was going to blow everyone away? And that's what worries me personally. The fact that there's that level of disconnect. Because I don't think you have to be a genius to figure out that that's probably not going to be received too
and this
well.
game is probably like a few years out. Like this live service like industry is moving really fast. If you don't have this game out this year, you're already too late. Because we have Hyenas, we have the finals, which already looks very far along. Like, why would people switch to that new game when they also can play Apex, Fortnite? Like, it's already super crowded, so you really have to be super special. But I'm not sure if you can bring up the sort of image that I also shared in the doc about Sony's investments over the coming financial years.
Yeah, let me click this.
Because that also kind of shows what we saw. Well, because like going back to like the PlayStation Showcase as a whole, all the new games they revealed, because Spider-Man was of course already announced. So all the PlayStation Studio games they revealed were live service. We had also the Concord game, new game from Firewalk Studios, PvP multiplayer first-person shooters. Helldivers 2, they're publishing that, also a multiplayer game. And of course, like Bungie is not a PlayStation studio, but they also announced a PvP, this time then extraction shooter. But I can see those games all competing for the same audience.
Yeah.
What is going on? And
I think you're totally right. That is the big, like, what baffles me is it's like they think that there's just an endless supply of extraction shooter players, or that extraction shooter players will just play every game all at the same time. Like, no, usually there's one or two that are at the top of the heap and everything else flops. And
they were first.
Yeah.
And you're already too late now, it feels.
I totally agree. And I've said for a long time, and I've gotten heat from Sony ponies, and then like Xbots think that I'm super cool for saying it, but I don't care because I just think it's true. Jim Ryan to me does not strike me as like an actual gamer. He strikes me as a businessman, very capable one, I'm sure, but he doesn't strike me as a gamer who's sitting down and playing games in his spare time. And that will inevitably lead to a disconnect between the consumer and the executive. We see it all the time in every business where the executives are out of touch with the community. I mean, just look at like FaZe Clan and the stuff they're doing right now that just, was getting going viral this morning. So it never ends up well. And as you can see here, they are totally shifting. You looked at fiscal year, if you're listening through the podcast, we have a graphic put up by Benji Sales on Twitter analyzing the PS5 investments by business model. In fiscal year 2019, PlayStation put 12% of their total PS5 investments in live service titles. 88% were for traditional games that release and then they're done, single player type games. In fiscal year 23, that has risen to 55% of their budget is now for live service games, 45% for traditional. And in 2025, their goal is to spend 60% of their PlayStation 5 budgets, development budgets, on live service games. 60%, 40% on traditional games. Now, granted, their goal is to raise the total funding for those. So in theory, the total investment in 2025 in traditional games will be about the same as the total investment back in 2019. But that still, I think, is upsetting to, or should be upsetting to some PlayStation fans, because if you're expecting them to just keep cranking the knob on these more traditional PlayStation exclusives, I think you're going to be sorely mistaken, because spending 60% of your dev budget in 2025 means those games are coming in 2026, 27, 28 through the end of the generation. So
I mean, they are live games, they are supported, so it will still cost them
it will
money
cost them money to upkeep,
yeah.
but certainly most of the cost of developing a live service game is upfront. So it's going to be very, very interesting, but I think all of this just goes to show that Sony really is shifting strategies, and they are moving towards a much deeper and intense focus on live service games. And if the showcase did not make that clear enough to you, maybe this will. But the PlayStation that just totally focused exclusively on these single player narrative games, I think those days are over. Now they're trying to expand, do that, and also do all of this live service. And I would wager that it probably doesn't blend.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It would be stupid for them to not do it, because they get 30% of all the Fortnite skin money on PlayStation, of all the Warzone skins. Like, they're looking at that and thinking, we need something where we can get 100% of that. So it makes sense that they're chasing that. But I think the PlayStation Showcase failed to show that they have a good idea of what a live service game should be. Now it was really, hey, we have these games too. And that was it. And they did not even show gameplay for these games.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, they stand or fall by the gameplay. Like, I think the most interesting live service games they have are The Last of Us, because that is something unique that you cannot find elsewhere. And I'm really curious what that will be. I hope it doesn't fall into the trap of chasing a trend, but really trying to do something unique. And I think the Horizon Online project, where you're hunting with your friends against these robot dinos, could be really cool too. So, but those were all not shown. Like, my theory really is that because last year we had a state of play around this time as well, I would not be surprised if they were like, we want to do that again. Like, of course, it's a Summer Game Fest E3 period, so a lot of third-party partners are also coming to them and be like, hey, we have something cool to show. Do you have like a stage for that, or should we go to Jeff Keighley or to Xbox? And Sony might be like, yeah, why not, right? Because they skipped, of course, E3 a couple of years, but they're seeing that everyone still likes that summer period to announce their games. I think there probably was a plan to have like a state of play type thing, but they thought, we have way more, let's call it a PlayStation Showcase, without really thinking of what a PlayStation Showcase means, because it also means that you show your own games. And if we really look at it, all the games, they did not show any new single-player AAA game at all. And if we look at the previous showcases, September 2021, Wolverine and Spider-Man 2 were revealed. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, of course, we know it's in development hell, but back then it wasn't. It was a big reveal. Project Eve, so Stellar Blade was announced. We got the first look at God of War Ragnarok. And the showcase in 2020 had Final Fantasy 16, first reveal, Hogwarts Legacy, Returnal, Horizon Forbidden West, Miles Morales, Resident Evil 8, first time we saw it, Demon's Souls Remake, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Like, the list goes on. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Gran Turismo. We did not see any of those games. And we know Sucker Punch is doing Ghost 2 probably. Guerrilla is doing the Horizon Online project. Naughty Dog is doing the Lost of Us multiplayer. Sony Band is working on a new IP. Days Gone came out in 2019. They have been working on something for a long time. Yet they did not show any of that. So that's why I think, in a perfect world, we get another showcase later this year. Because this felt like a, let's put on a show because all our third-party partners want it. we bought these studios. Like, I actually read an article about, hey, they're happy with Bungie helping them, of course, with the live service, because they bought Bungie mostly for their expertise to help them launch these big live service games. But in exchange, they're giving Bungie a bigger stage. Like, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the PlayStation account, also if you go to the PlayStation blog right now, it says like the new season for Destiny is like promoted. They're using a lot of their marketing resources to promote Bungie projects. And I think they're also like, hey, Haven, we want to buy you, or hey, Firewalk Studios, we're going to buy you, and we're going to use all our marketing resources to help you get your game in front of people. And I think that is what this show was. It was them having all these contracts that were like, okay, we have to show them at some point. Let's do it all right now. Let's call it a PlayStation showcase because we also got Spider-Man. Should be big enough, right? But compared to other PlayStation showcases, it just wasn't.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing that I think is important to note, which I'll get into in just a second, is just how many of these are cross-platform. But first, I wanted to just say thank you, Francisco, for the $4.99 super chat. This route is possibly due to the amount of investment it takes for AAA first-person games or third-person games, and still needing to show profit as or via live service. And I totally agree. It's just at some point, Sony executives, I'm sure, just went, why are we not tapping into this massive pot of gold when it's just there for the taking, presumably? And they're like, we're the kings of gaming. If anybody can figure out how to work in live service, it should be us. And so they're starting to try to delve into it. And maybe it works. Maybe this is, they're the ones that shake it up and make live service stuff not so cringy, but time will tell, certainly. But
so far we haven't seen that. They want to launch 12 of these games by March 2026, by the way.
12.
Yeah.
And March 2026, I know we all feel really old. That's like that's not crazy far away for 12 games in this category. It's crazy. But one of the funniest things that happened after this showcase, which I thought was just like a dab on the haters, was Xbox's choice right after the showcase, seeing that everybody was kind of frustrated. Xbox tweeted out this picture. And it's a picture of a ton of the games that were announced at this showcase or shown at the showcase. Immortals of Avium, Metal Gear Solid, Snake Eater, The Plucky Squire, which I think looks awesome, Neva, I'm not sure, Cat Quest, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Talos Principle 2, AC Mirage, Teardown, Dragon's Dogma 2, Alan Wake 2, Ghost Runner, and Marathon, all coming to Xbox.
Yeah, the new Bungie game, of course,
is also coming to Xbox to tap into that player base. And I thought that this was just brilliant because one of the things PlayStation has done for a long time is that they buy the marketing rights to some of these games, or they have it revealed at one of their showcases, and at the very end they put in available on PlayStation, heavily suggesting it's only on PlayStation when it also is coming to Xbox. I still know people that are like, oh wait, Hogwarts Legacy is on Xbox as well? They thought it was exclusive. And this was also just funny. IGN apparently just cropped off the picture and then put IGN PlayStation Showcase in the bottom and tweeted this out. And the head of Xbox marketing caught them because they just, like, seriously, they cropped it off here and then put IGN PlayStation Showcase on the bottom. And so the head of Xbox marketing called them out for this. I'm like, seriously, guys, like, a quote tweet was too hard. What are you talking about?
Yeah, busy times where you can save time. You want to,
corners. And I mean, as for the things that they did drop, so I want to tackle this real quick because I have expressed some frustration over this showcase, as have a lot of other people. And some people have come back and been like, well, but Marathon looked awesome. I'm like, well, it's cinematic, so we don't really know anything about it. So I wouldn't say it looked awesome.
It was a big reveal, for sure.
Big reveal.
Like Bungie finally doing a new franchise, but then hearing that it's still super far away is like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, that's not great. And like Metal Gear Solid, that's a huge announcement, but it was also leaked out the ass. And so
the trailer did not show anything. It was like a fun, playful trailer. But when you announce a remake, I don't think we've seen that actually. That they don't show what the remake actually looks like. Because we are skeptical when Konami is making something. So them only saying, yeah, we're working on it, which we already knew. Oh, we got...
Mrs. Babe is here. Hello,
Okay.
Mrs. Baby. Say hello to the podcast listeners.
Oh, hello, podcast listeners.
This is my very pregnant wife, Miss Nikki.
Actually, I just had a huge breakfast. I'm not pregnant.
Oh, good. Good. What's up? What's up?
I feel like I should share with you the most embarrassing experience I just had.
Oh, yeah? Is it something the podcast will appreciate?
Probably, maybe. It's not video game related.
Okay. Okay. Quick detour. Mrs., what is the story?
So 2 days ago, my lovely husband dropped a massive shampoo bottle and broke the faucet in our bathtub.
I did. It leaks water, so we can't use that bathroom now.
And our landlords are actually contractors, but they're hiking the Appalachian Trail. And so we've had nobody to fix it, and we can't take a shower because water will get behind the faucet. And so being the she-woman I am, I hired a plumber to come in and fix it. Said plumber came. He was very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
All he did was twist it back into the wall and charged me $170.
I don't think that is what he was supposed to do.
Well, he looks at me and he goes, so this one right here, because he's like, some of them pull off and some of them twist. Yours twists. I'm going to show you how to fix it for next time so you don't have to call us. And I was like, oh, okay. And he just twisted it back into the wall and then got some caulk from his car and caulked it.
See, I don't think that fixed it though. I'm not thrilled about that. I know it's flush with the wall, but like the shampoo fell on the faucet and hit it, and so it like snapped out of the wall. And so you're telling me he just like kind of jammed it back in, then caulked it around?
No, he unscrewed it and
twisted it.
Screwed it back on.
Golden touch. Golden
touch. I don't know. I think he just made it worse, but okay.
You're not there.
I wasn't there. Well, thank you for the story. I appreciate it.
This was the biggest reveal during the PlayStation
that's the
showcase.
biggest reveal of all.
Yeah. Surprise reveal.
Much love. Yeah, I just man, I lost my train of thought. But
Jason.
Luke is in denial. But am I crazy? If there's like a pipe that screws and stuff, but something hits it like that, and it starts leaking water, I think something snapped, like the pipe cracked or something. And then you're telling me he just like screwed it back in the wall and then caulked around it? That to me sounds like he didn't fix the problem. He just kind of screwed it back in the wall and then locked it. It's just gonna leak water down into the wall now. Am I crazy, chat? To me, this sounds like the plumber just made it worse and then charged us money for it. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm the one that broke it after all. Anyway, all of this to say, I mean, I think some of these announcements were big, like we were mentioning. Metal Gear Solid is a big announcement for sure. However, it was leaked and it was cinematic. We don't know anything about it. And if there's any developer we should be highly skeptical of and highly cautious about, is Konami. Okay. So I just don't, I understand for some people, some of these announcements were a big deal, like Dragon's Dogma 2 and those things. And it's true. Those are great. However, they're cross-platform. They aren't PlayStation Studios. And again, people had the perception that after a year and a half, almost 2 years, there were going to be at least a couple of new games from those big first-party studios. I wasn't sold on like a Bloodborne 2 or something. I didn't think we were going to see anything like that, because honestly, if we were going to, I think it would have leaked like a picture of the trailer or a video. Like, I don't see how that could possibly get to the showcase with every game journalist looking for it, and then somehow it evaded detection. I just don't see how that could happen.
Fair.
But
again, like you mentioned Dragon's Dogma, I think Alan Wake 2 looked really good as well. October 17th is when it's coming out. Phantom Blade Zero, I think, was the biggest surprise for people.
That looks
which is like
surprisingly good.
It's like a Sekiro, which I think with Chinese mythology and way more cinematic moments. Really, really awesome. But those games could have been revealed at a State of Play as well.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of my point. And Dragon's Dogma was already revealed. We already knew about Alan Wake 2. Like, it was cool to finally see gameplay for those games. But yeah, we missed because right now, if they are not doing a new PlayStation Showcase like this year, then we are going to wait 12 months until we see what Sony Band is working on, or the Last of Us multiplayer game. Although they said we will have more news this year. So they might be like going to Jeff again. Last year they were also at Jeff announcing part 1. So maybe that's the plan. But like for all these other games, the PlayStation Showcase is usually where big first-party stuff happens. And if there's only one after 12 months, then we will be in the dark for like, the next 12 months, which kind of sad. But I think my biggest, if we already want to segue to that, surprise.
Oh, okay.
Was Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Yes. I was actually, I mentioned while we were streaming it, I was like, Jor mentioned on the podcast that he thought we could see it, but he was probably thinking Avatar as well. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't know why Ubisoft would show anything here when they have their own showcase coming up. So I wasn't expecting to see anything. And yet we did. And honestly, I don't think it looked very bad at all. I thought it actually looked pretty in line with what I was hoping for.
Yeah, same. I think a lot of people that were, they were just not like in tune with the fact that this was a Valhalla DLC turned into a full game. I think if you know that and then look at it, for me, I was like, this looks better than the Valhalla DLC that I was kind of expecting. Like, we still see the fact that the sort of Raven is like sitting on the arm, like all the animations, we know them now. They're still here. That's fine. The camel, it's probably gonna feel the same as riding a camel in Origins. That's all fine. The parkour, pretty the same. They just made Basim a bit faster. And we got the pole vault, which looks pretty cool to get to, longer distances. But I think like Baghdad looks really cool and cool to explore. It's like I really got like some AC1 vibes. Of course, they're kind of going for that as well. And being more like still having the Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey type combat with the hitbox system, like it will be like that. But being a way more fragile character that will die probably after a few hits, I think it's a cool twist. And I really hope it pushes you to use the throwing knife and the smoke bomb. Well, in Valhalla, it's like, oh, I'm getting spotted. Doesn't matter, charge, and then you go kill everyone. But in this game, it will probably not work like that. So I think that could be really cool. And they showed quite a lot. Like I remember the first gameplay trailer for Valhalla, where it was like Eivor sounding the horn, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
We got like some close-ups of his armor, and that was kind of it. But here they showed quite a lot while still having a lot more to show at the Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah, it's like what I said in my video. People were complaining. They're like, it looks like a reskin of Valhalla. I'm like, well, it technically is. So I don't know what you were expecting, but I know you and I know I have tried very hard to manage expectations and make it clear that like this was built in the Valhalla toolkit. It was for a few weeks, like they were thinking of making it a DLC, and then they were like, actually, if we're gonna do this, we need to just do it and do a standalone title. And so because it's using the same toolkit, it's gonna have some improvements, like we were mentioning with the pole vaulting and stuff like that. But it's gonna be visually probably very similar. It's going to be, in terms of animations, a lot of the same reused stuff. But on the other hand, the potential good side of that is that they've spent 3 years not reworking animations and stuff, but trying to build out interesting levels. One of the things I was actually pleasantly surprised with is very early in the trailer, they show Basim talking to this other character, describing how you have a target right here, a target to go after, and that there's multiple paths in. You could maybe bribe your way in or sneak your way in, and that alone brings back the AC Unity style of multiple entry points, the sort of Hitman inspired design
missions.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that is going to be really, really a great addition
If executed well.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of worried about that because did you play the Siege of Paris DLC for Valhalla?
No.
Okay, because they had that there as well, and I would imagine that it's mostly built on those systems because they already made those, and there it was like still the idea that you could like go into this bar, talk to this person, or sneak and grab the key from the guard or something, or bribe someone who will tell you about the secret passage. In the end, though, you had to do mostly all of those things, so there was not a lot of freedom at all. and there was mostly only one way to assassinate the target. I really hope they go far beyond that, and that it's really like, oh, how did you kill this target? Oh, I just with the rope around the neck. Like, that's the one we saw, of course. Maybe there are way more. I hope that that's the case. But there is no, like the older games, like a replay mission feature or no New Game Plus, at least what the developers told me back in September last year. So it will probably be like a, yeah, if it's really like as free, if there's like a lot of paths you can take, then it will be quite a replayable game, but likely one that you actually have to replay over and over instead of going back to that singular mission.
Yeah. And I mean, it also is funny that they very quickly came out and started showing off their deluxe DLC.
It's still Ubisoft.
It's still Ubisoft. Yeah. If anybody was expecting them to not do anything, then you know, I don't know what to tell you, but I mean, as long as it's cosmetic, it's fine. But let's be real, there's probably going to be some that give you like stealth boosts and stuff like that.
Only on weapons. The outfits should be cosmetic only, but I do think the weapons will have like a singular perk.
It's gonna be,
should not be that impactful, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as I think they got teased enough with the freaking Iron Man looking thing that leaked, and so I think maybe they're calming down a bit with that. But like these Prince of Persia inspired ones and outfits are fine. And you know what? If you get torn out of your immersion with like a glowing horse, just don't buy it. You know, just don't use it. It's not that big of a deal.
I love how Michael in the chat will say, "Get your Iron Man suit ready," just before you actually said it. Like, yeah, we actually got a donation there as well from Kush.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Do you guys think the Mirage will have AC Unity level parkour? Have a great one. I think we already kind of touched on it, and I always said when the developers were like, we're aiming, like they really carefully, like they never said, yeah, it's gonna be like Unity, but they're aiming to make it more like Unity. And obviously it's not, because it's still Valhalla, and then they brought back the corner swing from Origins, and they, like, I think still, because Basim is also a bit faster, which will totally, like, it's a small change, but it's a big one probably when playing the game. But I think the big difference versus the RPG games is that the city is really made with parkour in mind, while in the RPG games, it was more just an easy way to traverse every level, so you didn't have to run, like, around a building, you could just, like, go over it. But it seems that they really thought of, like, okay, this would be a cool path where you can, like, escape, and we put some things here that you can fall over. In Valhalla, you could still do that, but that was mostly just a cart on the road that you felt like just rolling over, but it was not like a carefully constructed parkour path or something. So I think they will have more of that in Mirage.
And I totally agree. One of my biggest frustrations with
Assassin's Creed Valhalla
was that it was basically just a big green forest with like trees and then some ruins and some flat little buildings. There wasn't a lot put in Valhalla that was designed for you to parkour around, which is honestly how they justified getting rid of a good amount of the moves and animation sets, because they were just not going to be used. Whereas if you build a city, like I went and I played like 45 minutes of AC Unity last night. I was waiting for some friends to come over and I was like, yeah, it's been a while. Let me see what it's like. And I booted it up, and that entire city is built, like Jor said, for parkour. They have, all the windows are arranged in a very particular way, and then this thing hangs here in a very unique and particular way so that you can jump from that, swing here, and bounce over there. The entire city is like that. And my hope is that Baghdad's been built in a similar way, where they've crafted it to take advantage of the animations that we do have. But again, like, if anybody was expecting it to be AC Unity on steroids, or even just a copy and paste of that system, I don't think that was ever realistic. And everybody that read the article or read the interview where that whole rumor came from was aware that they said, in a coy way, I'll grant you that, but they said that they were aiming for Unity, not that, it's going to be way better than anything we've ever done before,
I did see the people run with it, though. Like, there are some Twitter accounts that put, like, rockets everywhere, and it's like, AC Unity parkour back.
Hype to the moon!
Yeah. And then if that's your only info, then I get that you fell for that. But I've always been saying like, and also like the big one as well. This game, I saw it on Amazon for $40. I think that's just like a cheap discount or something you can get there. But it's gotta be a game that you will probably finish in a weekend if you like play.
Yeah.
And then there will probably be some side content, which I think is fine. Like looking at that trailer, for me, it really ignited the fact that we haven't had a new Assassin's Creed in 3 years, which kind of crazy. So I just want to pick up the controller and experience a story like that and a world like that. While I think that Red, I do think that they are like going back on their parkour is not that interesting. I do think with Red they're gonna take
Crank
it back
it.
to the next level.
I hope so too, because I mean, you saw the reaction in that PlayStation showcase when they did the oh crap, what was it? It was something 0. The crazy like animation set. It was like Ghost of Tsushima on steroids. People in chat are gonna tell me. I'm totally blanking on
During
the
the
name of it.
Ubisoft Forward?
Or no, during the PlayStation event. It was one of the earlier ones they showed. Oh, chat, help me.
Oh yeah, it's
Phantom Blade.
oh yeah,
Phantom
that's
Blade.
the Phantom Blade Zero game. Yeah,
Like just the reaction to the animations in that trailer made everybody lose their minds. Just like the one parry thing it did where he spun on one foot and then pushed one guy away with his foot and stabbed somebody over here. Just that was enough to make all of us sit up and go, okay. So imagine a reworked Assassin's Creed with an animation set for parkour that actually is improved over Unity and is not simplified. That would be amazing. Drinner, thank you for the $10 super chat, by the way. I'm somewhat interested in Mirage, but my question is why, like for real, why did Ubisoft keep dodging the potential of a full open world AC game in Japan? Did I miss something? Drinner, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Raptor, I don't remember the guy's name, but there was an executive at Ubisoft until a few years ago. I believe he was ousted or booted.
Mark Alexicote, I think, like the one that is now like in charge of the whole franchise.
Like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he said that they always heard, of course, the feedback, but they wanted to get it right, and they did not feel that they had like the experience to really do it right. And like now with the new consoles, and I mean, I think it's also like the team, of course, gets to decide in the end where they want to spend their next few years on. And I think after Ghost, they might have seen there is a market for this. Maybe they never thought that there would be.
Yeah.
So that might also, because they started development after Ghost came out, which of course sold 10 million copies for a new IP on only PlayStation. Ubisoft is like dollar signs in their eyes because Red is gonna sell way more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. And of course, like with the next gen consoles, like they're really talking about from the small little details we had or have about Red, is that they're going to make it more immersive. And of course, you have all these forests, these like, yeah, it should be like, not sure if you like remember the Breakpoint sort of reveal where they had like this character like crouch.
Oh, in the mud and stuff.
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like they're going to try stuff like that as well to have us be more, because like of course in Valhalla and all the other games, apart from like Origins with the sand a bit, but feels like you're not like you're just a character like floating a bit over the world. So hopefully they can make it more realistic like that. But that was kind of what they said. But I think it's mostly the Ghost of Tsushima thing.
Yeah.
That they just.
I agree, and I think one thing that was described to me from a guy I talk to about game dev stuff all the time. He's just like he works in the industry and he does like character animation work. And what he said when we were talking about Assassin's Creed stuff and like free running and that type of thing was actually pretty interesting. And he threw out something I hadn't thought of, which was that Japan has very unique architecture, which would be particularly difficult to create an animation set around for climbing. And so he's like, I don't blame them. It sounds like a headache. Like, why do that when you can just go to like Baghdad and the buildings are all rectangles? You know, it's just way easier than something a little more elaborate and complicated. And I hadn't thought about that before. And I was like, honestly, that does make sense.
Yeah, and we saw that also, like, if they, because Origins was of course the first RPG, like the step to Odyssey, where you also have like the ships and stuff, which we of course kind of had in Origins and in Black before that, also makes way more sense. So to have that trilogy be kind of similar, and then for their next jump to the next gen consoles, really try something new with Red.
Yeah. It's going to be, really interesting to see how the next few years of Assassin's Creed stuff goes. They need this to go well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any mystery that Ubisoft has had a rough few years financially, and they need to have a couple of winners. And hopefully that starts with Mirage. But I mean, the one thing I will say and give them credit for, besides this deluxe edition trailer, which has not received great, it's like 2,500 upvotes, 2,000 downvotes, which I mean that's an expansion trailer, it's whatever. But
why look at that? Like the sad part, why would they do it if nobody cares? Like, people are gonna buy it.
That's the thing. Like,
So-
I don't know why they need to post the trailer. Like, just have it on the website. Let people be like, oh, whatever. Roll their eyes and then click on the standard edition if they don't want it. Like, why do you need to put a whole trailer out when you know it's
Because
just
it's
gonna
Prince of Persia inspired, I think. Like, it is something more than just a druid. Because we had the Berserker armor, for example, in Valhalla as like the deluxe thing. I think it's like a throwback thing, and I think the items look pretty cool. Like, I don't mind in my single player game if there are some glowing things. Like, if you don't want them, don't equip them. It's as easy as that. It's not like you see someone else run around on a unicorn and then you get taken out of the experience. I get that, but it's a single player game.
Yeah. In the same way, like if you download a single player game like Red Dead and you download a mod to swap Dutch out with Shrek, okay, like if you like that, cool.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Go.
But then like don't complain that that's available for people on the mod store and like demand that it's taken down, because that's just stupid. But I mean, overall, the reaction to this trailer has been very positive. People are actually cautiously optimistic here. And I think they did exactly what they needed to do. And I mentioned this in my video. This was a very small detail, which probably very few people care about. Let me see if I can get it. But if you look at this portion right here, as Basim's walking, you can actually see the rug is deforming under his feet and moving as he walks, which is a very, very small detail. But just the fact that they've paid attention to that little bit of having a rug with physics under your feet, that to me is a good sign, because that means that they're paying attention to those little details and they've had the time to focus on those little details. And that's the type of thing that gets me excited. A rug.
Okay, I'm happy for you.
I'm like, the trailer looked great, but did you see the rug?
Yeah. The story was kind of bad, but did you see?
Yeah. Oh man.
Hey, but you already like kind of made a nice segue, because you said Assassin's Creed is of course the only thing. Like, not the only thing. Rainbow Six Siege is still making money, and Far Cry is fine. Like, 6 did not set the world on fire, but I'm sure it's still like made a bit of a profit. But they're really hoping that they have more than Assassin's Creed, because Mirage probably will sell a few million. It probably didn't cost that much to make. They've only worked on it for like 2+ years, because this is the team that did Wrath of the Druids, which launched May 2021. So, but they're looking, of course, ahead. They have the Avatar game coming, which I expected at the PlayStation Showcase, because it seems like they have the deal, but not anymore, maybe, or I'm not sure. We will see it now on June 12th when we get the Ubisoft Forward. But last episode, for people that missed it, we talked about the Ubisoft large game that they have planned for the next 12 months. So for their financial year, which ends March 2024. And we were speculating, like, looking at things that would be realistically possible. I said Immortals, like, that seems like a game. We got like the creative director on that, already working on it for like 3 years. The first game had only a 2-year dev cycle, so hey, right? But now we got Kotaku with an interesting story that I saw. It kind of like got under the radar because like a lot of stuff was happening that day. But I was like, what? So, do you want to read it out, or should I?
Yeah. Sources. This is again from Kotaku. Ubisoft open world Star Wars game maybe sooner than you think.
What?
Yeah, subtitle, the Assassin's Creed publisher thinks it could arrive by March of 24. That's
way.
very close. Like, very close. Can you imagine if they come out with a bombshell announcement for this and like show it at their June 12th showcase?
I mean, they're 100% gonna show it now if it's because it's gonna be the final June 4th or the Ubisoft Forward stream that they have before this game is supposed to come out. But let's read a bit more because there's more.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, two sources to Kotaku, they told, because again, we did not know what the large game was, so everyone was curious. Two sources tell Kotaku that development on Project Helix, which I find a very funny name, and by the way, some of the art they used also had like Helix in the file title, which I also find interesting. But yeah, so it's called internally Project Helix, which seems to likely include some form of interplanetary space travel for a Star Wars game. Very cool, of course. But the game hasn't been progressing well, and hopes are high internally that the game could be Ubisoft's first non-Assassin's Creed blockbuster hit in some time. But they also say the company's goal to release the game within the current financial year, so before that April 2024 window, it's probably a bit too ambitious. They still expect it to ultimately slip to sometime in the following financial year, which runs from April 2024 through March 2025. To be fair, this game was announced in January 2021. It's the Division 2 team that is making it, with the creative director on Division 2 also doing it. It's a story-driven open-world game, so not a live service like The Division, which I think is great because The Division, quality, always really great. They fall flat when they have to like think of an end game and think of a post-launch. They don't have to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of optimistic. But again, if they started, maybe because The Division 2, when did it come out? Like 2019?
I think so.
Right?
That sounds
or
right.
2020?
I think 19. That sounds right.
Yeah, 19. So if they immediately started, then they have totally been on their way. But of course, COVID hit. Like Avatar has been in development at Massive as well, different team, so same studio, but like for a few years before that. And that game is still not out. So how in the world are they expecting this Star Wars game that started way later to launch probably a few months after the Avatar game?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know either. I'm a little baffled. I mean, they say sources, so they claim that this is multiple sources confirming this to them.
Believe it, that they think that this is planned, but it's just not gonna happen. I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, it's wild, especially hearing that they the exact phrasing. Let me see where it was. The exact phrasing was, which seems likely to include some form of interplanetary planetary space travel. It hasn't been progressing well, and hopes are high internally. I don't know how you say hasn't been progressing well, but hypes are high internally. I don't know. I mean, it could be awesome. It could be that they're just used to working like multiplayer, whatever stuff, online stuff, and so this has proven a little quicker for them to put together. I don't know how big that team is. How big is the team over
Probably
there?
big, yeah.
It's gotta be
probably
pretty big.
And they of course have like a live team working on the Division right now, but that's, I would say, like 50 people. I'm just like speculating here, but I don't think that's like a lot of people. Like most of the people inside Massive are doing either the Avatar game and the Star Wars game. But they are saying like it hasn't been progressing well, but when it eventually comes out, they have high hopes. So it's not that they but it is kind of worded weirdly because the article's title is the Ubisoft Star Wars game is coming sooner than you think. And then in the article, it's like, probably not.
But probably not.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's wild. That's why. I mean, do you think we've already seen it in the Beyond Good and Evil tech demo that they did back at E3 2017? We've seen what the Ubisoft engine teams are capable of doing in terms of data streaming from planet surface to space and stuff. So we know that they've had tech to kind of get this working for a while. So it doesn't seem that crazy to me that they could have a Star Wars game with planet surface to space, interplanetary travel, that type of thing working. But do you think if they do get this out, like, do you think there is a big market for this from a company like
100%.
Ubisoft?
I'm already like, I think because Jedi Survivor is of course great, but that is kind of the only single player Star Wars game AAA that we had in like many years.
Mhm.
And I think people want to, because I already see it when I make like a Star Wars video, whatever. People are searching this game on YouTube already while we don't know anything.
Yeah.
So just the idea of having an open world Star Wars game, I hope it's Mandalorian. Like that would be cool. I think that would be also fit the division, like maybe third person shooting style really well. Having that and just being able to No Man's Sky it a bit, or like, I mean, but it sounds very ambitious,
Yeah.
and they have to get it right. And it's interesting because I listened to the investor call, and of course the investors were like, "You've been like Skull and Bones is still not out."
Yeah. The hell is
So,
going on?
Yeah, are you confident that you are going to hit these titles? And they really said, yeah, they've been in the works for a very long time. I don't think they were talking about the Star Wars game, but this really feels more like okay, let's put it on the board so it seems like we have more than Avatar and Mirage, because Mirage is not as big as like another big Assassin's Creed game, and Avatar kind of a coin flip. So they need to have something else as well. And I think the only like sort of takeaway from this article, because I don't think it will launch before April, that we will see it. We will see it during the Ubisoft Forward. I think it will be the one last thing, and we will finally see what it is. And then maybe it ends with 2024, and then they're kind of cagey about if it's early 2024.
Yeah.
Because I think they learned about, like, Ubisoft previously always with like Far Cry games and stuff, put a February or March date on it, and usually they would hit them. But in the last few years, they did not. Like Far Cry was first early 2021, then it got pushed to the end of 2021. Watch Dogs as well. Like, so I think that's gonna happen. Like, I'm still curious to see it. I think it could be a quality game, but I also think that Disney will not allow it to have them like launch it in a poor state. So
Yeah.
it's not gonna
Hopefully.
happen.
But I mean, talk about a surprise flip. Everybody just assumed that Sony was going to dominate the summer showcases and stuff. And
What if? Yeah.
now it looks like Microsoft could have a decent show, and Ubisoft might come out at the end of their show with a game that lights the internet on fire, like a decent interplanetary travel Star Wars game. Like, people would lose their minds.
Wild prediction. I think this trailer will have more views in the same period of time than Starfield.
I would not be surprised if that's the case. I would probably agree. For better or worse, maybe it'll be so bad that it'll go viral, or maybe it's so good that it'll also go viral. But I agree. I think it's also just Starfield is a new IP. It's at a disadvantage to begin with, to just be completely honest. Anything Star Wars is going to generate a lot of interest and excitement.
It's number one on Steam, I think, in the pre-order charts, Starfield.
Oh,
it is
Starfield
on
is?
Game Pass. Yeah, I
That
think
blows
so.
my mind. Really?
Yeah, it's number one. Hollow Knight is number two.
Actually, I guess it doesn't blow my mind. Have you tried using the Xbox launcher on PC?
No.
Oh my sweet Jesus. It is so broken. I cannot install games easily. I was trying to download Redfall for that video we did on it on launch day, and I hit like the download button and it just sits there and says preparing. And you have to leave it for like 6 hours just sitting there, and it will either start downloading or you have to try again, alt for the app, relaunch it, try again. So it took me like 2 days to get Redfall downloaded. And even then when I did it, if I hit play, it just crashes immediately. Whereas like on Steam, it works fine.
I could like choose to, because I wanted to play like Jedi Survivor, and it was like more or less expensive on Origin. I was still like, I'm gonna just play it on Steam. I just don't want to like struggle with these different clients. Let me just play it on Steam.
Yeah, getting something to launch on the Xbox launcher is a pain, which is amazing because they're owned by freaking Microsoft. Like, they have zero excuse. But anyway, let's get some last questions in before we wrap this up here in just a minute. All told, I think the PlayStation Showcase did not do what it needed to do, and I think it disappointed a lot of people. Even though I don't think it was terrible, it wasn't just a total like mobile game filled mess. I do think that people had an expectation of at least one new announcement that was going to surprise people, and there just wasn't anything like that. Spider-Man was great. Metal Gear Solid announcements, cool. All of this stuff is great. A lot of it was leaked or already announced, or just cinematic trailers, so we don't know anything about it.
Yep.
So I think that was an oopsie. And then the AC Mirage, honestly, looks pretty damn good. Better than I was braced for it to look.
I mean, we still have to wait and see. Like, the gameplay is going to be very important. My theory for, like, the Ubisoft Forward is that it's going to be, like, one of those trailers where they will show gameplay and then, but you can also do this, and then they, like, do a rewind or something and then try and, show the same mission in a different light. That would be cool. But I'm still, like, it looks better, but I'm still, like, this is going to be, like, a fun few days.
Yeah. Yeah. As for everything else, we are, of course, doing this episode on Friday. Normally, I think going forward, we're going to be targeting Wednesdays. They just work better. So we will be back on the 31st streaming live here. And as always, the show is available on pretty much every podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything, if you want to listen on the go. And if you can leave us a review on any of those, it would be greatly appreciated, of course. Not sure what we'll have next week, but you know what? A lot can happen in 5 days, as we've learned in weeks past. So you never know what we're going to have to talk about next week. As for all of this, some final comments from the community that is live with us today. This one from Kratost I think is interesting. The Xbox launcher is the perfect example of where Xbox is at the moment. Good idea, horrible implementation.
Ouch.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. Unfortunately, I love the idea of the Xbox launcher on PC, but God almighty, we did that Fallout 76 video. I literally bought Fallout 76 for like $10 to play it on Steam because I couldn't get it to launch on the Xbox launcher. And at that point, what's the point of even having Game Pass if you can't use it? It's amazing.
That might explain why Starfield is number one, like on the Steam store.
Yeah, you know what? All of a sudden, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it might also have something to do with mods. I don't know if the Xbox launcher is as flexible with mods as Steam is, but AC Mirage looks the same in terms of mechanics as old AC games. Are you okay with them not having anything new? What do you take on that, Joe Raptor?
I mean, like, I think already going back to the roots is kind of new because we haven't had that because we haven't had that in a long time. I think it's gonna be very fun and interesting because I prefer the RPG games over the older games to have kind of a blend of the two of them, because I still think the combat, it's gonna feel like Origins. Of course, it's only gonna be the sword and dagger, but the hitbox system is still there. So I'm really curious if I can like just still steamroll it. Or if it will be really hard because Basim is of course like a way weaker character. But no, again, it's a $40-$50 game. I did not expect them to reinvent the wheel, but I think already giving us a taste of what could be. I really see this game as like, you guys said you wanted it, show us you want it. And if you don't, then we will just do other things. But I really think that if Mirage is successful and if the game reviews well and stuff, that this team will probably get bigger and they will really make like a full-priced back to the roots game that we will then see launch in one of the years in between the RPG type games.
Yeah, you could even see a fully dedicated team where all they do are these. Like they're going to have the multiplayer kind of co-op Assassin's Creed over here, and then they have the more gritty RPG one, and they have all these teams working on them, and then they'll have the other team that's just doing the stealth kind of classical Assassin's Creed game.
I would love that.
But you got to vote with your wallet for sure. You got to vote with your wallet. And last question, let's answer this one real quick. Influent. Thoughts on Alan Wake 2 having no physical release? I saw this. It was a little bit of a surprise to me, and also not a surprise. Physical releases are expensive. I get it. And also, let's be real, most physical releases nowadays, the version of the game on the physical disc is probably not even playable. If it works, usually it requires digital verification through a server. So the whole idea, unfortunately, of physical media in the gaming space is dying out. And so I don't like it, but unfortunately, in my view, it's just where the industry is nowadays.
Same.
Proto
Yeah,
says.
Oh,
I was just gonna say it looks like Proto followed up. I think THQ Nordic
Oh.
had offered Remedy to help with the physical
That's
release
right.
of Alan Wake.
yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That could be interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think like it's still gonna take some years, but like we did not see it during the PlayStation Showcase, but it seems that Sony wants to launch a discless PS5 with a detachable disc drive,
Mhm.
so that everyone is gonna buy the digital version basically, and has to like, go over some sort of hurdle to also put discs in, which I think less and less people are going to do. We saw even Nintendo launch Metroid a month before they launched the physical version. So I think it's kind of dying out. It's
Yeah.
gonna be, and I think that this is just more Remedy looking at the numbers and being like, all our audience is really tapped in. This game will probably sell a lot on PC anyways, where physical doesn't even matter. So
Yeah.
I think that they don't mind.
And I just to like take it out of the gaming space a little bit, and then we'll wrap up with this. The first ever like computer I saved up for was a 2012 MacBook Pro. I saved up all my earnings from chess tournaments for years to buy this little laptop. And that was the year they took out the CD drive. And I remember being in the Apple store to finally get my MacBook, which was the previous generation. So it still had like really thick and it had the CD drive on the side. And the salesman, the Apple Genius guy, was like describing how I love Apple, but I think they're insane for getting rid of the CD drives in these laptops. The idea that you can't just own a movie and have it on a DVD and watch it that way is ridiculous. And now we look at it and the idea of having a CD drive or a DVD drive or whatever in the side of your laptop or your iPad is outrageous. It's like, yeah, that's super stupid. It's outdated. And I honestly think in 5-10 years, we'll probably be like, oh, we used to have like all the games in physical discs. Oh, that's so retro. I love that. I like right now it sucks, but unfortunately it's just the way the industry is going, and eventually we'll get used to it, which is what they're banking on.
And it's way more profitable for those companies. So it makes only more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. We will be back. We will be back next week. We will be back next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. I have a baby on the way, as you guys saw earlier.
Yeah.
Not due until June 10th, technically. So we should be good.
Still close.
It's getting close. But of course, if a baby comes, I will let you guys know. And we might postpone that week's episode by a little bit. But I'll keep you in the loop with that. Okay. I'll keep you in the loop.
Or you give me the stream key and I'm going to wreck your channel.
Sure, I'm just like, yeah, let's party, let's go crazy. Just start watching all sorts of Netflix shows and stuff the whole stream. Oh man. Anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out with us. 400 people in here. You guys are wonderful. Much love. Awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.